DJ Bushman has followed the scene for years, hearing all the potential hopefuls.
He was cool with Bushman, but Bushman didn't have to say of what went on the air. Again, there, you had to be black to be on the air, and if you weren't, then you didn't get it. You got tossed aside.
Today's hit music, 93.1.
Eminem made another important radio connection. DJ Lisa Lisa sponsored open mic nights during her program. Eminem called persistently to audition. Lisa Lisa was impressed with his drive and lyrical expertise, so she invited him on. He became a station favorite and one of her regulars.
One of the first couple of raps he did, I think it was that he was locked in a psycho ward or something, but it was almost like a joke. It was like a comedy, but then you listened to it, and it had such a dark undertone. When he jumped on the mic, he turned all of that anger that he felt in the room, teasing him, into a strength, and he ended up winning. I just remember sitting there watching this little blonde white kid, like, what are you doing? How are you turning this around on these guys?
For me, for him being white, I didn't care. I would listen to it. I always try to give any feedback to anybody I could about their music.
Though the album made people in the Detroit music scene aware of Eminem's talent and abilities, Infinite was a Eminem and the Bass Brothers got stuck with the bill.
He was respected, but not respected. I think there was more talk behind his back. He used to come home discouraged a lot. There's days he'd be like, man, I just want to give this up. I want to forget it. I'm going to be done with it. I'm going to just keep working, do what I got to do to get by.
When he realized he was going to have to work for a living, Marshall and my sister would compete over who had the most pills. Yeah, they would fight over who had the most, not who had the pills, who had the most pills.
The black community said no to him.
He was sort of the white zebra.
You're not black, we don't want you here.
He was out of place.
This boy, he wanted to die.
Recovering from the commercial failure of Infinite, the rest of Eminem's life was crumbling beneath him. He was fired from Gilbert's, he was constantly fighting with Kim, and he couldn't support his daughter Haley. He was fed up, pissed off, and at the end of his rope. In a moment of desperation, clinging to the memory of his Uncle Ronnie, Eminem tried to kill himself by swallowing a handful of pills. Out of the darkness of Eminem's suicide attempt came a renewed inspiration to find the voice he would need to succeed as an artist.
There's a story that I've been told where he was talking to Buddha Full of Rhymes, who's another Detroit rapper, and he was telling him, you know, I'm just not getting anywhere with this, and so I'm thinking of trying something different.
We were telling him that he needed a gimmick, an image.
And his identity was masked because he didn't know who to be.
He got fed up. His ego totally flipped. They don't like the good stuff, you know, I'm going to just start screwing around and writing some stuff, and said, hey, I'm going to start writing the craziest stuff that you could possibly imagine. He had this alter ego called Slim Shady. We were just like, wow.
Wow, he's got a totally different sound.
That's right when he really started getting looked at.
Mark Kemp, Eminem's first manager, arranged for Proof and another Detroit area rapper named Bizarre to attend some meetings with music executives in New York. Bizarre knew Eminem from the Detroit rap scene and invited him to go along.
Bizarre played his stuff and Eminem played his stuff, and I think Bizarre told me Eminem got a little bit better response. I remember when he called me and got my feedback on a new record he was making, and he rapped just the two of us to me. It blew my mind. I was like, whoa.
Wow. And it was the Slim Shady EP. I went, oh my God, this is so good. Murder, Murder. You know, went up to Eastland, shot a policeman.
When you hear Slim Shady rapping, if you listen to his music, it's really distinctive which are the Eminem tracks and which are the Slim Shady tracks. The Slim Shady tracks are the harder edge. They're the more bitter, the more vindictive tracks.
No longer was he being the kid that was being picked on or bullied or told he wasn't going to amount to anything.
That was his dark and evil side that basically was coming out.
They start saying all these things about different people.
Gay bashing, the homophobic stuff, lesbians, hotheads, doing drugs, anything associated with violence.
The Slim Shady EP was released in 1997.
When this came out, this was no joke. I mean, with people putting aside Infinite and stuff because he sounded like somebody else, when he did this EP, Slim Shady was born.
And it got a positive response, and it allowed him to take out a lot of his frustrations.
And we were getting successes. We were selling tapes out at different stores, and we were getting shows. And
we kept selling them, getting them and stuff. We knew we had something here.
Steady sales of the Slim Shady EP proved that Eminem was ready for the next level. Scribble Jam is an urban arts festival that celebrates the hip-hop lifestyle. The annual summer event is a convergence of aspiring MCs, graffiti artists, DJs, and B-boys. Even with the forward progress of his music, Eminem's family life would still remain in a state of turmoil.
I really had to talk Eminem into it. I mean, he was like, I'm broke. I was like, don't worry about it. I'll cover you. You should just make some time and go down there. He had a show the night before, so it was probably 3 or 4 a.m. before we even got on the road to Cincinnati.
Slim Shady competed at Scribble Jam in 1997. It was an opportunity for his new persona to showcase his freestyle and battle rap abilities he had been crafting on the streets for a broader audience outside of Detroit.
I'm gonna start throwing on my automatic inside the trash. From now on, I'm jacking off the pictures of your bitch ass. This is a mismatch. You probably sipping cane. You better beg him to start over and think a different name.
There were 80 people that entered the MC battle. One of them was Eminem.
Come to Detroit with a dirty. You gotta walk with my style, I'm gonna leave your razor all up like my fucking shirty. I don't give a fuck about you with your crew, bitch. You ain't got no juice to climb through you off the roof like picture. Switch up your motherfucking style. Bitch, go back to the crack vibe. You try to act loud, but I'm Slim Shady. Blowing you off like an M8.
Out of 80 MCs, he battled his way to number 2. He lost to a guy named Juice.
Stepping on the line like he was down with 8 dogs. When I get down, every juice is straight pimpin'. The freestyle shit, you run it, and I'ma win it. I beat this nigga one day, I fuck you on the next day. I see your right shirt and I see things like an x-ray. Now that brother, you need a little practice. Who the fuck died unless you had a rap practice?
I remember him coming back and telling me that he finished in 2nd place in Cincinnati, where they kind of had it fixed because the guy from the store won. You know, there was a feud, and everybody's like, oh, that white boy won, the white boy won, and he lost to this guy, and he should have won. He was frustrated, but he was excited because he knew he should have won. But then again, he finished in 2nd place, he just says, well, I'm just going to do it one step more. And no matter where he did or where he worked or whatever, he always told everybody he was going to be a star. You just watch.
While a 2nd place finish at Scribble Jam widened Eminem and Slim Shady's reputation beyond the streets of Detroit, there was no immediate financial benefit. Eminem returned to an empty home. Kim and Haley, following the family cycle, left him to live with relatives in Warren, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. The new Slim Shady went back to the old Eminem couch surfing ways, ultimately ending up in a place he had worked for years to avoid.
Here's a guy, up until the time he made it, when he was in his mid to late 20s, he was still living with his mom, even when he had a girlfriend and a baby.
At a music industry conference in Detroit, Mark Kemp approached Wendy Day, an influential music industry power broker, and gave her the Slim Shady EP.
I was like, I'm going to give you something I really want you to pay attention to. I'm going to give you this tape by this guy, Eminem. He's a white guy, but he's going to floor you.
Initially reluctant, Wendy was won over by his masterful handling of words, rhythm, and his Slim Shady persona.
She was putting together an event with a magazine called Rap Sheet in L.A. She was organizing an event within the event called Rap Olympics. And the teams would battle in things such as storytelling would be one battle, or picking stuff out of a hat. She was like, I'm putting together this team. I want Eminem on the team. I got Thurston Howell III. I got Juice. She wanted M to finish it off. I told Eminem he should do it. He should definitely do it. She flew him out. I got a ticket. I flew out.
At the Rap Olympics, Eminem again finished 2nd to the same rapper, Juice. Yet the trip to L.A. yielded much more important results.
When Eminem went out to L.A., he was basically someone who had beaten a local talent, who had gotten a little bit of a regional reputation. But the Rap Olympics was a chance for him to showcase in a major forum.
An LA-based radio station had Eminem on the air. It really lit up the airwaves. Eminem dropped some verses that had people's wigs blown back for real. I met a guy from Interscope. I gave him a tape.
Everything Eminem had worked for, the embodiment of his struggles, determination, perseverance, and tears were in that tape, the Slim Shady EP, and it was finally in the right hands. While Eminem's tape was circulating through Interscope, he made a second appearance on the same LA radio show.
And not only did he do well, but he caught the ear of Dr. Dre. And Dr. Dre, basically, by the time he went to Detroit, was ready to take him to the world.
Dr. Dre is one of the most influential producers in rap music. In 1992, he founded Death Row Records with Suge Knight. He also engineered the careers of Snoop Dogg and Tupac, among others. Shortly after listening to the Slim Shady EP, Dr. Dre signed Eminem to a recording deal with his label Aftermath Records. After months of recording, the Slim Shady LP was released by Aftermath and Interscope Records. The result was instantaneous.
When the first single hit from his first album, Hi, My Name Is, became a buzz clip song, we had an in-store, and there was 1,000 people here. He was just signing. Finally, they come out there and they told him, they said, look, that's all you can sign. You're done. You've been here for 3-4 hours signing stuff. That's when you found out that this wasn't the guy that comes in and talks to you all the time. This is the time you found out this guy's going off and we may never see this guy again.
When Eminem first started to make it, was you could still see on some of the telephone poles in town or on some of the walls near some of the music venues, you could still see scraps of an Eminem poster. Most of those posters were put up there by Eminem himself.
Eminem's fame came like a flash flood. It caught a lot of people by surprise, even Eminem himself. The Slim Shady LP debuted at number 3 on the Billboard charts and would go on to sell 1 million copies by the end of that year. On June 14, 1999, in the wake of Eminem's worldwide success as an artist, he and Kim got married, but the relationship remained tumultuous.
I think with Kim, he always knows where she's coming from. He doesn't always like it, but I think that's someone where he feels like she's with me for who I am.
In July 2000, Kim attempted suicide by slashing her wrist. Kim recovered, though a month later the couple was separated. They reunited later that year for a few months, but on March 1st, 2001, they filed for divorce. Weeks later, Kim filed a $10 million defamation lawsuit against her husband.
He probably feels that, you know, why couldn't I have had a more traditional upbringing? And I can understand being upset about that, but if he had had a more traditional upbringing, we wouldn't have Eminem today. Because that is really the raw fuel for what he is.
In September 1999, Debbie Mathers filed a $10 million lawsuit against her son for defamation of character. The lawsuit cited numerous instances in lyrics and interviews in which Marshall described his mother as abusive, a drug user, and an unfit parent.
I am who I say I am, he says in his music, and he talks about his mom suing everybody. One of the first things I started to do was to check the courthouses. And lo and behold, going back 25 years, she's been suing folks.
As a response to Eminem's lyrical criticisms, Debbie recorded a song called Set the Record Straight with a group called IDX. The song is available for purchase on the internet for $3.